Hey guys, look, I added some more visual interest. I got a guitar, I got shoes, I got Monkey D. Luffy. That's popular. Kotsky blanket. That's anime too. Look, and we even got what the fuck is that? What is this? This is me. I don't know what the that was, but now that I have your attention, I am going to be bringing about an issue to you guys that I feel like is very pertinent to the fitness industry right now. It's an issue that's spreading like the plague, and that's hybrid athletes. Hybrid athletes are spreading like the plague on Instagram, where once rational, sane bodybuilder will take a sharp turn into being a David Goggins style hybrid athlete. I mean, seriously, people, we are losing good gym bros every day. So today, I'm going to be fighting the good fight, and I'm going to be going through and taking a look at 5 hybrid athletes on Instagram and critiquing things here and there that can be improved, and overall shedding the light on some of the pitfalls of hybrid training, as well as shedding a light on some of the benefits, because, you know, not everything is black and white. God damn. Enough montage. It's enough. This video is from probably the most famous hybrid athlete online, being Nick Bear Fitness. He's kind of patient zero of the hybrid athlete trend. Before I can say anything, do I think he's on gear? Yeah, I mean, he's probably on TRT. So that being said, he can train harder and train with less rest than your average natty, because TRT can greatly speed up recovery. I mean, a 2015 journal article concluded moderate use of testosterone under professional medication counseling might offer effectiveness and efficiency in both recovery and rejuvenation, and should be considered a possible option in conducting study for exercise rehabilitation. So really, he can train longer and harder than you for this reason. I mean, it's not that he's tougher than you, it's just that he's got advantage of being on performance enhancing drugs. And I mean, that doesn't take away from that hard work he puts in too. I just think it would be worthwhile pointing that out. But addressing the points in the video, can you run and lift? Of course, yes you can. A 2022 meta-analysis concluded that in contrast to previous findings on whole muscle hypertrophy, the present results suggest that concurrent aerobic and strength training may have a small negative effect on fiber hypertrophy compared with strength training alone. Will you have the same gains in the gym if you were to just bodybuild only? No. Are you going to have the same PRs running as if you just ran with less gym time? No. It's the simple fact that the adaptive pathways for running and lifting hinder each other, and they just don't really mesh very well. Also, running and lifting is going to tire you out, therefore affecting your training intensity on the others. So really, it's going to be hard to do both effectively. He mentions overtraining though, which is a different story. Actual overtraining is very hard to do, and it really comes from the buildup of weeks and weeks of too much volume and intensity, which can lead to various bodily functions being harmed, like mental health being worsened, sleep being worsened, appetite decreased, a worsening of chronic injury, overall training productiveness being decreased as well. The more common issues with hybrid athletes, I would assume, would be non-functional overreaching, which is lesser than full-on overtraining, and it's essentially an extended period of decreased performance. It's not that you're a bitch, it's that your body can't handle the amount of stress that you're putting onto it, and it basically means that your body is systemically fatigued. This would be the biggest issue with hybrid athletes, because on the one hand, they're like, oh, I'm gonna go run like a 100-mile ultra marathon just for the hell of it. 2 weeks later, I'm gonna go compete in a pro bodybuilding show. I mean, your body just can't keep up with that kind of like a taxing workload. The easiest way to avoid this would just be, once you feel your body start to decrease in performance, you feel lethargic, stuff like that, then you take a full-on deload week and take some more rest. So hybrid training is definitely possible. You can do it. It's just you have to listen to your body and don't go like, oh, I'm gonna go hard as just for the sake of it. I'm gonna be fully honest, I had to watch this video like 20 times because I was too enchanted by his dastardly good looks to focus the first 19 times I watched it. Aside from the guy being absolutely huge and questionably natty, this video is pretty dope. I'd be a hater if I said it wasn't dope. If you're capable of running a 50-mile ultra marathon and being a pro natural bodybuilder at the same time, then that's sick, and all power to you. What I will say is the genetic lottery you have to hit in order to be able to run marathons and be a natural pro bodybuilder is absurd. Your body has to be able to put up with such serious punishment day in and day out, because having all that muscle only makes running a marathon more difficult, and running like 4 or 5 miles every day, I would assume, probably more, would also make training bodybuilding much harder as well. Also, the punishment his wallet must have to endure with all the calories he has to eat must be insane too, because this guy, he has to just be exercising 24/7. His metabolism is probably through the roof.
So a question I often get asked is, can I still build muscle and run regularly? And I literally always have the exact same response, which is, what is most important to you? If building muscle is most important to you, then running 3 times a week is just gonna make that process harder, and you won't be giving your body the recovery time it needs to properly build muscle. You're better off putting everything into building muscle and then entertaining the idea of running once you're happy with how much muscle you've built. And I think the reason that this question comes up a lot is because a lot of content now is based around running and lifting. So it looks as if that is how the creators making that content have built their physiques. But the reality is that most of them have built it just doing bodybuilding or weightlifting or another form of resistance training, and then have got into running once already having the physique that you see in their content, myself included. I'd literally been training for about 10 years before I even started running. So, you know, obviously I would have built a decent amount of muscle in that time. And now my priority has shifted into getting fitter and, you know, being able to perform better out on my runs. So that's what I focus more on. If you want some more support with your goals, and
I wanted to include this one, not because it's like a crazy, absurd take that's going to get a lot of clicks online, but it's probably the most rational take I've seen on hybrid training online. So a lot of hybrid athletes are just going to be like, I'm going to train as hard as I can so I could be a natural pro bodybuilder competing with the open class dudes at the Pittsburgh Pro. And then on the weekend, I'm going to run a double ultra marathon. But really, at the end of the day, being a hybrid athlete means that you're good at a lot of things, but you're just not great at any one thing. It's like just being a jack of trades, but with fitness. And it's not a bad thing, it's just the simple fact. Now, I would say fitting in some form of cardio is always good from a general health standpoint if your focus is bodybuilding. However, it doesn't need to be running 4 miles every day. It can just be like a simple 20 minutes on an incline walking after your workout. And there's a lot of evidence in support of doing cardio, and it's not going to really affect your gains a whole ton. After comparing 8 highly resistance trained younger men and 7 older men who engaged with regular resistance training, showed that engaging with 10 weeks of endurance training, the results suggest that even in older people highly trained for strength, benefits of endurance exercise do not impair force production or lead to reductions in muscle size. So really, doing some cardio isn't going to affect how much muscle you're going to be able to put on. It's just when you start running like 7-8 miles a day that's going to start having a bit more of an effect on your overall like amount of muscle that you're going to be able to put on. So really, it's just like a balance.
I'm currently training for strength and a sub 3-hour marathon.
I'm going to stop that right there. Right off the bat, he's training for strength and he's training for a sub 3-hour marathon. So that's absurd.
As well as apparently remembering my dog's food. 5:30 wake up, leaving the house at 6 with said dogs in tow, as well as their food, you'll be pleased to hear, for a 7 a.m. lower body session. Very deadlift focused, as my squatting ability is quite limited at the moment with a sore hip. Kicking things off after warming up to 200 kilos for 2 sets of 4. And I'm pleased with how these moved overall, given that I haven't been focusing too much on conventional deadlift, and especially given I spent most of Sunday the day before shifting gardening materials around, and this hippo bag just about broke Jamie and I's spine. Anyway, on to deficit deadlifts, followed by deficit paused
and then pause
beltless deadlifts, which is a pretty horrible way to start the week, if I'm being entirely honest. Reverse lunges at 80
and then
kilos
reverse
to finish
lunges.
things
Jesus.
off my lower body session before
Doing 8 total sets of deadlifts is pretty nuts to me, and 8 total sets on any movement is crazy, let alone like the most taxing kind of gym exercise from a muscle recruitment standpoint. And then pauses and deficits with that, and then moving into 3 sets of 24 on barbell lunges is absolutely cooked. So, I mean, I'm no strength trainer. I train for mostly size. I mean, not to flex, but I really just train for size, so I don't know the fucking first thing about strength training. So if that's how you increase your deadlift, then Julio.
Another embarrassing scene of the crime from when earlier in the week I confidently grabbed this box from the postman with one hand, had it rip and empty itself all over the floor as the postman giggled and walked off. Anyway, into a full day's work at my desk before heading to the track at about 5:45 for Omnia Performance Run Club at Meadowbank Arena this time round, with a great group of people joining us for 6 by 400 meters with equal rest between sets, and we were all cooked. Back to the office to collect the dogs and grab myself some Clearway for some easy protein because...
Wow. And then we're moving into 6 by 400 meters on the track. My gym bro pea brain can't comprehend doing that much cardio. That's a ton. Obviously his body can handle all the stress he's putting onto it, except if you were to train like this, you'd have to eat a ton of food and you'd have to have a pretty good chunk of time on your hands as well. But, you know, more power to him. I mean, there's just the hybrid athlete things, I guess. He can probably handle it if he eats and sleeps enough, though. So more power to him for doing all this. I can sit here and judge all I want. I would never be able to go and do anything that these hybrid athletes do. So, I mean, there's that at least.
A full week of marathon training. I'm currently getting ready for the 2024 Gold Coast Marathon, but thought I'd test myself on a 30-kilometer race on the weekend. So this is pretty much how the week went. Monday was just an easy run and a lift, and then Tuesday had a speed session with the group with a leg workout the same day. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was all easy running, but still keeping the volume pretty high. Friday, we hit the weights again, and then Saturday had a shakeout run with Katie. This is how the race went. Tough conditions, tough course, and I was really happy with it, and then still finished the week with 108 kilometers.
So in the comment section here, it says full week of training, mini taper for a 30-kilometer race. If that's a taper week, I wouldn't want to know how much his full go weeks are. That must be absurdity. I did a little numbers crunching, aka I just guessed, and he came around to be 12 kilometers a day of running around roughly, which is 7 miles, which makes sense if you're training for a 30-kilometer race. But when you add on 4 days of gym training on top of it, that's just a crazy amount of training to endure in a week. So I hope he's getting his deloads in after these kinds of weeks, because the systemic fatigue on his body must be absurd. And I will say the way he structured his workouts is very smart, though. The main reason for why endurance activity may hinder muscle growth relates to different adaptations to exercise for resistance training and endurance training. Doing cardio and strength training at the same time may yield diminished returns and may inhibit muscle hypertrophy. Ideally, to avoid this, you would do cardio and resistance training by at least 6 hours separated. So if you want to be a hybrid athlete and run and lift, then you want to space out your workout so then these pathways don't interrupt one another. So if you go and hit like a fat gym session and you pump that fucking iron, you don't want to go immediately after that and run like 5 miles, because the pathways are going to interrupt one another and your resistance training is basically going to do diddly dick. Really, hybrid training has some real benefits like improving your cardio and growing muscle at the same time. However, overreaching is super common and can be really easy to do if you're training to be a bodybuilder and you're training to run marathons at the same time. So really, if you're a hybrid athlete, don't overdo it. Not everyone's built like David Goggins. It's okay to take rest breaks and listen to your body. So that's going to wrap it up. Hopefully that visual interest worked and my retention graphs are just